We are now officially leaving the 20th century behind. This is the century that saw the inception of White Zombie, and the novel I Am Legend get made into 2 different film adaptations. 3 different George A. Romero movies, Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and Day of the Dead, written as social commentary. It also saw an entire spin-off Return of the Living Dead series, which skipped the social commentary and imagined the zombie movie as a vehicle for comedy. Tonight's movie is something in between. Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg have given George A. Romero his due as the godfather of the zombie movie.
George Romero is one of my big heroes. He made one of my favourite films ever, Dawn of the Dead, and of course Night of the Living Dead and Day of the Dead subsequently. It's the Godfather. It's the Dead Father. And I'm going to be in another film.
Romero liked tonight's entry, Shaun of the Dead, so much that he gave Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg a cameo in the 2005 Land of the Dead. Personally, I remember seeing Shaun of the Dead when it first came out and thinking it was one of the funniest movies I've ever seen in my life. Edgar Wright, Simon Pegg, and Nick Frost were 3 roommates who lived together and had dreams of making movies. In 1999, they created a Channel 4 show called Spaced that lasted 2 seasons and has lived on as a cult classic.
You've got a best friend called Mike, who's a weapons expert.
Yes! Yeah.
You have a potentially fatal allergy to Brazil.
Yes, I have no memory of Christmas 1979. Mind you, I've got no memory of Christmas 1994 either.
Oh, why not?
I don't know.
Right.
British television is different than American television. British television shows usually last 2 or 3 seasons, rather than being dragged out for 8, 9, or even 12 seasons.
Those zombies at the front were amazing. A lot of them were fans of Spaced that we just asked to come down. We literally paid them £1 because we had to pay them.
After making Spaced, they were adrift, and Edgar Wright, Simon Pegg, and Nick Frost moved into a nice neighborhood, but spent all their time at a local pub.
I can't do this anymore.
No, whoa there, Pickle. You know,
Every morning I wake up and it's the same.
Edgar Wright turned his frustration about Simon not wanting to do more stuff outside of the pub into the beginning of the idea for a slack romantic comedy, set during the zombie apocalypse. While editing Shaun of the Dead, Edgar Wright started using a technique that would become a hallmark of his filmmaking for the rest of his career: hyper-quick cuts. One of the most relatable parts of the entire movie, in my personal opinion, is the hilarious sequence where Shaun walks obliviously through the city, completely unaware that anything has changed. Human beings have a tendency to act strangely in this post-austerity world of malaise and boredom. Why wouldn't you just assume that the zombies, at least at first, are just drunk or mentally ill?
Elsa, have you got any papers?
Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg also decided early on that the zombies, to use the Z word,
Z word, don't say it. Why not? Because it's ridiculous. All right. Are there any out there, though?
will behave similarly to how they behaved when they were alive. This feeling of being trapped in a routine, the repeated exercises that we can't escape even in death, this was something that Edgar Wright was committed to break out of. George A. Romero envisioned zombie movies as a way to tell deep truths. Stories about human communication, consumerism, and the conflict that drives us. Shaun of the Dead asks the question, how do we stop being zombies ourselves?
Wait.
Anyway, before I introduce the panel, let me say, please like this video and subscribe to the Movie Night Extravaganza YouTube channel. Also, we are now monetized, so if you have any pressing questions during this live show, send us a super chat. We are absolutely obligated by international law, human rights law, to answer it. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Movie Night Extra. All of our after parties are available on there forever. Okay, let me introduce the panel. J. Andrew World, illustrator, book cover artist, comic designer, and artist for Give Them an Argument, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza and Bad Takes. Conan Neutron, host of Protonic Reversal and the frontman for Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends. They just got back from touring on the East Coast, and I got to see Conan play in Peekskill, New York. It was pretty awesome. Hildebeest, anarchist, Twitch streamer, mod, twitch.tv/Hilde_beast. I, of course, am your long-suffering host, Forrest Miller. I forgot to introduce myself earlier. Without further ado, let's get started.
So consistent about forgetting it every time.
Twice in 1 week. I can't believe it, you know?
Yeah, you think you'd get a hang of this eventually.
Yeah. It's only episode like 116, right? Yeah.
And I still don't know who I am or remember where I was on Christmas 1994.
Yeah. Hey, this is an awesome one. This I've been looking forward to this one for a while, and Hildy, it's great to have you on. This is your first time on the show, I know, but you're always a ray of light in the comments, which is something I don't say often.
Cheers. I'm very, very happy to be here, and thank you so much for extending the invitation to me. Greatly appreciated.
For sure. So I want to ask you guys, when did you first see this? Because I saw this I shouldn't have seen this probably pretty close to when it came out, but I definitely did. I remember, I think I got the DVD of it, but like me and my brother watched it and we were just like, what the fuck is this? And like, we had heard a little bit about it, like, you know, British zombie movie, but I think my dad rented it and didn't know, realize what it was going to be like, but I don't know. We fell in love with it instantaneously. And my dad still has the DVD of it. And I've watched it probably watched it 15, 20 times since 2004.
It's awesome. Let's say Hildy, why don't you go first since you're the feature guest. So.
Oh, cheers. I saw it in 2004. I was old enough to see it at the theater, and I thought it was bloody brilliant. Really, really brilliant. I remember back in the 70s when I probably shouldn't have watched the Romero flick, the Night of the Living Dead, but I did see that. It was on late at night, the black and white, and I remember being really intrigued by that. And then fast forward to the 80s, I think it was around 85, Mad Movies came out and they did sort of an overdubbing of Night of the Living Dead, which I thought it was hilarious, but I guess other people did not think so. And then that was when I thought somebody should actually make a flick where it's hilarious and it's zombies. And then Shaun of the Dead came out in 2004. And when that came out, I was like, yeah, I was meant for this moment in time. So I'm so grateful because it was funny.
Nice. Andy, I'll go last. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I missed it in the theater because that was after my oldest was born. So I wasn't really going to see too many movies. I think the only movie I don't
believe that.
I caught in that time period was Bubba Hotep. Right. Wasn't going to miss Bruce Campbell on the big screen as Elvis. But
I remember Bubba Hotep. Bubba Hotep's pretty good, man.
Yeah, it is.
That's a good movie.
It absolutely is.
Ossie Davis.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
And my microphone stand just fell apart. Yes.
Okay, well, you
So,
can
there we
take
go.
a
This will be
mulligan
fun.
and
Yeah.
fix that if you
But
like.
no, I will finish up what I'm saying though. But as soon as it was on TV, like a year later, I
Yeah.
remember watching it with my wife, and we both enjoyed it at the time, which is weird because she usually doesn't like movies like this. But
So for me, I was a fan of Spaced, Andy Hotep. I was a fan of Spaced, which we'll go and charitably say had a niche audience is probably the best way to put it. But then again, Hilly, I can't help but notice your Tardai, I guess, TARDISes. I don't know what the plural of TARDIS is. One of my favorite shows of all time is Doctor Who. And I am a big fan of things like Red Dwarf, etc. So that I somehow ended up watching Spaced. So I knew Spaced, even though it was around for like not that long of a time. And it was like, oh, the guys from Spaced like have a movie, and it's like the zombie episode. And I was like, I am in, because there's an episode of Spaced where I think he's playing like Resident Evil or something, and like he has like this fantasy about being like in a zombie movie, and I was like, that sounds amazing, and it so far exceeded my expectations in every way, and absolutely was a product for me. And we talked a little bit about. I'm going to acknowledge Kristina eventually, by the way. We talked a bit in the Zombieland episode, which we kind of did out of order because this one came first, of comedy entering like the zombie movie pantheon, right? And that, like, Return of the Living Dead probably is the first one to do that, but I think the most effective version of that is Shaun of the Dead by far, by a large margin. And of course, hello to Kristina, Cosmopolitics in the chat, not on air, but in the chat, but in our hearts.
At least she's here more than in spirit. She's here in viewership.
She acknowledges the show's happening when she's not on it, which is more than I do.
No, but I think that I think that you're on point with that. It's interesting that Zombieland kind of does the same, tries to do it as like a romantic comedy. I think this movie does it way more effectively as a romantic comedy because he's grappling with his mom, obviously his his close relationship to his mom. He's grappling with Philip and like the whole thing with his stepdad and realizing that his stepdad actually did love him and he's just a tough old conservative British man or whatever. And like, I don't know, like, so all these relationships kind of combined, I think, make this a far more effective romantic comedy set during the zombies. The zombies are almost incidental, and I mean that's on purpose, obviously, but like
especially at the beginning where they're hardly even acknowledged. And on the rewatch, I just forgot how absolutely genius it is when he's like channel surfing and like all of the like little snippets of conversation from each like news item and
Panic on the streets of London.
Yeah, like it like makes it actual like, hey idiot, this is what's happening. Like I just forgot how delightful that is. But that's Edgar Wright as a filmmaker. Edgar Wright is utterly fantastic, and I think like his sensibilities, as we mentioned in the Scott Pilgrim versus the World episode, there's almost nothing there for boomers, which is for at least your typical boomer sensibilities, and it's one of the things that makes his movie so unique and so often imitated, but like rarely well, I would say.
Yeah. I really like that, the quick cuts thing kind of got its start. I feel like, well, I mean, on Space first, but like, at least in his movies, in this with like
that's totally. I mean, credit where credit's due. Like there was a lot of that in the 90s, but I mean, he did it in a way that was artful, which at the time, instead of just doing like a ton of it, like look at like Natural Born Killers or something. I mean, it's like that MTV style was like, it was like just lousy.
Well, and
but it's entertaining. He brought it back.
He's coming into filmmaking out of TV, which is kind of fascinating. Not just, I found out last night when I was watching his, he had like a 30-60 interview or whatever, and like, so it's not just like that show, but he actually directed a bunch of different shows for Channel 4. He was like doing regular work for them, I guess. Like I
mean, it makes sense, and it's something where the guy's a film like a film maniac. Like if you see like he's got this list of like some of his like 500 of his favorite films or something, and it's like there's deep cuts for me where I'm like, what is that? That's crazy. But the guy's like a deep lover of film and music and TV and media, like, and in a way that's very earnest and very very nice.
It is. It's very esoteric, and he's pulling from different areas, which is nice because if somebody is like, and I took a night class film school like once upon a time way back, but I mean, to see that the same type of cookie cutter movies that are put out there, and then there's this interesting comedic, almost serious, but not quite serious. There's this pandemic, which we think is a pandemic, but we're never ever really told in this movie what exactly created this whole zombie type nation. And the fact that he's pulling all the different areas that he's interested in when he created this movie is like chef's kiss. Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Well, and that's sort of endemic of most of the better movies of the genre anyway, is you rarely find out like why. Like it's almost incidental, right? But then I love that there's like allusions to like what is it? Infected monkeys or something, and like as like an aside, which clearly is like a nod to like 28 days later, coming up next week. And like a few things here and there, but like they refused like the Z, the Z word, excuse me, not the Z word, but the Z word. Because they never, in zombie movies, they almost never call them zombies, right? That's one of the things in Zombieland, actually, which I think I forgot to mention, that actually is kind of change it with, is actually using that term rather than just calling them like infected or calling them like undead or not calling them anything at all.
Yeah. No,
too early to bring up I Am Legend, though. But it's I mean, I think you're onto something with that. I mean, it's interesting that Shaun of the Dead, being, I think, very important to the genre of zombie movies, is also part of like that Cornetto trilogy, like Hot Fuzz and Not Until the End of the World. Jesus Christ, that's Vim Vendors.
No.
The End of the World, right? Or I can't hear you, Andy. It's like the third one is World's End. Is it the World's End?
Is it World? Is it?
I think it's World's End. I don't know. Okay.
Yes.
Comment section, throw me a freaking bone.
At World's End.
At World. It sounded good to me. It did. It sounded good to me.
Until the End of the World is great though. Like, but it's also like 4 hours long. But anyway, that has nothing to do with any of this.
Or no, it's the World's End, I guess.
The World's End. Yeah.
I thought it was At World's End because they end up at the bar, but yeah, it's the World's End, I guess.
Yeah, and like each of these, and one of the things I like about and they call it the Cornetto trilogy after the ice cream, is that like it's meant to be like Fistful of Dollars for a few dollars more, and Good, Bad, and the Ugly, and the fact that they're not exactly like the same characters, but they play the same-ish usually type of characters, and they have like a linked, like there's links to them without them being exactly chronologically the same storyline. Thank you. Everybody says his video's gone, his audio's gone. It's just the Conan Neutron show. Welcome to Protonic Commercial, everybody.
I'm trying to fix I'm trying to fix my lights. They're giving me like a weird color.
It's fine. It's fine. Andy,
this one does.
Still got no audio for you, Andy. Maybe want to check your inputs. But I think it's amazing too, because there's such a sense of madcap adventure to this, but it's also kind of weirdly low stakes for like for a zombie movie too. Like, and I like that. There you go.
It was a risk,
and I think it's interesting too that they often we've talked about the people finding their moment, right, to be to find their moments in this apocalyptic scenario to like rise to the occasion, right? And Shaun kind of does that, but if you stop and think about it, did he? I mean, which is kind of amazing as well, because that's probably more likely as a scenario for most average people, is that like not everyone's gonna like have like the makings of a cinema hero that like they that's actually one of the only things I really liked about the movie that they call Dawn of the Dead that Zack Snyder did, is like one of the characters like it's just like an average like dude, like a drone kind of guy, but like he comes into his own when this happens, and they actually acknowledge that, which is something I've often thought about with these types of movies, not just zombie movies, any kind of apocalyptic movie where people that like otherwise have like a very mundane, drab life, it's like, oh no, you were built for this somehow for whatever reason. Like Jesse Eisenberg's character, and
it kind of feels like the things that are holding him back from having like a functional relationship, his relationship with Ed, like his relationship with his mom, that's kind of, you know, too close or whatever, his relationship with Philip. It's not that he does anything to fix those things; they're just all dead by the end of the movie.
Exactly. Yeah, there's not any growth of any kind other than you know, like yeah, and like then the Nick Frost character is just relegated to the shed at the end of it. Spoiler alert, everybody.
My mom watching it was like, I wonder if he felt bad that he killed his mom, but he left he left Ed alive as a zombie and just kept her in the shed.
Yeah.
Oh, I never even thought of that.
Yeah, it's messed up,
jeepers. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Well, I mean, it's a different situation. He had Ed, you know, trapped in the, you know, contained within the little cellar, but still, it's like, oh fuck. I mean, we could have kept these, you know, some of our loved ones alive. Well, not alive, but like zombified.
But also, it's it's a comedy, you know. So like, let's not go overthinking it, right? I mean, it's meant to be funny, and that's a funny way to end it.
I also like the you know, Wendy Williams type show or whatever, where she has her husband on. She's like, I know he's a zombie, but I love him, and he's like,
oh yeah.
That thing.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Well, that goes kind of back to the conversation we had with Bonnie, right? About like you know, the gaming out the scenarios of what would it actually be like if there was a honest to goodness zombie apocalypse, and her sort of theory that like things would we would adapt. Right.
Actually, I rewatched Maggie this week, and that's kind of what they do in that movie, is they just kind of adapt. I remember first watching it thinking, oh, them reopening the public schools that early? They wouldn't do that. Like that. Watching it this time going, no, they nailed it. I think, yeah. Maggie actually ended up being a much better movie than you know, than I thought it was.
Yeah, a little prescient. And that's why it's hilarious that like, yeah, they have like the reality shows and like where they're like going for the meat or whatever. I mean, that's come on, that's funny. Yeah. Like that's
totally do that.
I mean, they would 100% be like I married a zombie type reality show. Yeah. They'd be like, you know, a zombie show where it's like you know, 90 Day Fiance or whatever the fuck it is, but it's like a bunch of zombies having to like, you know, find love in the end or something and not eat the person, like, you know. I wanted to play this though. This is
my zombie boyfriend.
Yeah. We're talking about
but you have to worry about the zombie babies.
Writing
as we established in Dead Alive, which we mentioned in the last episode. You know, the most obnoxious character in the history of cinema.
Yes.
This is where they're talking about writing the scene where he's walking and he's walking through the city, and the actual, that's the first thing they shot. So I guess starting from the first shot, the last thing they shot, I guess, obviously was they spent a couple weeks in the Winchester pub and like actually like, you know, did that entire thing. And I guess it took weeks to shoot, and it was like really hot in there, which kind of makes it sound like the way they described it makes it sound like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where they're, you know, describing like the scene where they leave the meat out for a couple of weeks. That's literally
those toasties.
And I played the part of Shaun Smiley Riley, as his name was. You probably didn't know that. That was his DJ name. He was an electrical store retail chap who was stuck in a sort of cycle of torpor and inactivity with his best friend Ed, much to his girlfriend's sort of disapproval. That really at the time was fairly autobiographical. Nick Frost and I, who played Ed, were ensconced in a pub in Highgate called The Shepherds, where we spent much of our time, to the disappointment of our then girlfriend, Edgar Wright, who used to try and get us to go into town and go to the Groucho Club and places like that where celebrities hung out. But we didn't want to do that. We wanted to stay in the pub. So we wrote a whole film about it and added zombies. When we came up with the idea for Shaun, we wanted him to stay in the same costume for the whole movie. Apart from the sort of first scene and the last scene. So we came up with this very, very distinctive white shirt, red tie, which became his look.
I would have never written Shaun of the Dead if I carried on playing the PlayStation. That's a fact. I feel like you can only concentrate on two like sort of like passions, and out of like books, music, films, like comics, games, you know, like I have to pick two. So I always have to go for films and music. So my reading is terrible. Like keeping up with comics is really bad, and keeping up with games is really bad. But I do watch a lot of movies, and I do listen to a lot of music, and I'll try and spread out into everything else while I have the time. The first day of the shoot was this shot where he walks from his house to the corner shop and back. I remember like one weekend playing like Resident Evil 2 for a very, very long time, and then wandering out on a Sunday morning at like 8 in the morning and just walking up the road and across the street to the corner shop and back again without seeing any cars or anybody else. And I think probably because I've been playing that game, I was thinking, well, what if you walked out here and there were zombies? What if you saw it from the point of view of somebody who was hungover and who was the last to know? It got bigger based on the distance between the two locations.
Are you about 15p?
We couldn't find a flat that we liked and a corner shop that we liked it was about a 45-second walk. So we had to make that interesting. What it was is the cameraman on the film said that he believed the shot would be cut out. He said, there's no way this shot's going to stay in the movie. And I said, oh, yes, it is. I said, I'm going to make it really interesting. So I think I made it more interesting with background gags and zombies going on because I was slightly annoyed that this guy had suggested that it was going to get cut out for time.
I mean, that's like one of the key scenes of the movie, as far as I'm concerned. Like, that's an amazing scene. Like,
I like how much of this movie is fueled by Edgar Wright having issues with people like Simon Pegg or like his cameraman and like spiting them by putting like, oh, I'm gonna spite you and put the scene in. Oh, I'm gonna write an entire script about how you won't go see celebrities. In
we
London.
Just want to hang out at the local pub instead.
And so it's like a spite script.
Hey, can't argue with the results, right?
Yeah, I could just see like some people saying, "Is this about me?"
Exactly.
Oh, is there something you want to say to me?
No, he's just too oblivious. He's like,
right. What do you
know?
Well, and the best gag and we've talked about it is like when when he still hasn't noticed that they're zombies and he like thinks it's a homeless dude, right? I mean, that's come on, that's hilarious
and
because
that's realistic,
very real. Anyone that's lived in a big city, like I'm sorry, like I'm not trying to sound insensitive, but there is some zombie-like tendencies. So, and especially if you're like distracted or hungover or whatever it was he was. I should know. I just watched it like an hour ago, but
I remember. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying it was hungover. Continue.
Yeah. I thought so. Cheers to that. Yeah.
I remember in the theater when that scene was going through, and I was enjoying it. But I also wanted to know if anybody else was as quirky as what I was, is still. And so I was looking around and people were laughing as much as I was over that opening scene. And I thought, okay, good. We're all around here with the like-mindedness and this is going to be good. This is going to be a really enjoyable flick.
Lord Loke in the comments mentioning, I always love the woman snacking on the guy outside the Winchester. Another great gag because they're wasted and they're like, oh, check it out, they're making out. And then like the second they turn around, you see like the neck, like
the head falls the second they turn around.
And one of the best things about the movie too is the very first thing you hear is the song by the Supers. The specials. Yeah, the specials.
Supers.
The Supers. I'm sorry, they're a Canadian band.
I know you've had this bit prepared too, so I didn't want to mercilessly.
No, and I'm screwing it up.
But you tripped at the starting block, my guy.
Well, I mean, my mic stand's falling apart.
It's a whole scenario.
My kid got lost on Tuesday, so I had a relapse of sickness on Wednesday, and
sun was in my eyes. It was wild. Anyway,
craziness.
The specials, go ahead.
The specials, which if anybody's not familiar with the specials, they were one of the first ska bands, came out of the punk scene in the 70s. Lots of
are they considered two-tone, Scott? They're considered two-tone.
Yeah, they're two-tone. Right? They're two-tone. They're like the least famous of the big two-tones because this was like the Beats.
Madness is the one that broke out big.
Yeah, and so did the
Selector, I would say, is lesser known than the special. You know what? Nobody cares. That's fine.
Nobody cares. Yeah, but the thing is though is that their song "Ghost Town," which is the first song you hear, is actually about Thatcher, England. About how the suburbs, the factory towns have been like emptied out and the social life has dried up because of the recession that they were in, and which is kind of apropos to the that moment of the was Blair still PM then?
That was Tony. Tony Blair was in the 90s.
Yeah, Tony Blair was like 2004 though, right? Yeah, because that was like Iraq War.
Yep.
Yeah, so kind of like the continuation of the neoliberalism that
I think he was like on his way out around that time. Like it's like 2007 or something maybe that he was his. Yeah, he was prime minister until 97 and 2007. So he was still prime minister at that time.
Okay, yeah, but
as opposed to Liz Truss, who was in for 4.1 Scaramucci's.
Well, she went to Parliament and she said,
"Not my joke." He actually said that himself. Credit where credit's due. I wish I came up with that.
She went to Parliament and she said, "Trust fall," and fell, and none of the Tories caught her.
Nobody grabbed her.
I'm just glad
what
that she's
astounding
with the cat.
I love the tweets that were like, oh, like maybe it was an inside operation, like tank the pound, get rid of the queen, like.
Yeah, well, because the queen met her and then died. The queen was fine and met her and then died the next day. Yeah, so my whole I've always felt like she was like an angel of death sent down to kill the queen and then
not an agent of chaos.
I think Charles is going to have more PMs than his mother did, and she was like queen for like ever.
Exactly.
I always kind of assumed that the queen would live longer and then Charles would die before the queen.
Before the queen, that'd be amazing. Wow.
Oh, I'm not convinced the queen's still dead. I'm sure they're gonna dig that body up, and she's a zombie. She's totally.
I was gonna say, where's that zombie movie? Yeah, exactly. Zombie queen. Yeah.
But I love the line in Shaun of the Dead, to bring it back to Shaun of the Dead, where he's like the jukebox going and he goes, "Kill the queen," and he goes, "What?" and he goes, "The jukebox."
Yeah. Andy, did you get out what you wanted for this? I'm sorry.
I think so. But just basically was kind of comparing, that early 2000s malaise that we had before the recession, and how this movie kind of taps into that a bit, and how like the idea of using the song "Ghost Town" as the opening number is a statement. It is like your thesis statement right there.
But that's Edgar Wright though. He does that, especially. I mean, Baby Driver is probably the one that's like most.
Oh yeah.
Most notably so, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, like he's again, as we established in the Scott Pilgrim episode, like he is very judicious about his use of music, and I appreciate that. But I think it's notably so. Like it's a character in the films, practically.
Last year when Adam Curtis put out that Can't Get You Out of My Head docuseries or whatever, his thesis was another song by the Specials. It was Do Nothing. That was his. So it was like 50 years of like emotional climate around neoliberalism. Like that's what he's kind of tracing through this through this entire like 6-part docuseries. And it's interesting that in both cases they use it as kind of this ska based thesis statement, I guess.
In very different ways. Yeah, we would be disingenuous because we did mention Queen to not mention one of the greatest scenes of all time, which is of course "Don't Stop Me Now." Where they assault the owner of the bar in time with the music, which is amazing.
This is Simon Pegg describing the process of shooting it. I had to cut out a lot of parts of it because he's watching it live, but this is what I managed to salvage.
Simon Pegg reacts. Hey, where's that Twitch? I'll watch that.
Edgar Wright actually uses a lot of the actual sound from the fruit machine within the movie to sort of communicate foreboding and what have you. It's very clever. I think it's called diegetic sound. I think when you use actual elements from the scene as scoring.
Diegetic, but yeah.
He's very good at that. Watch his films. We were in this set for a few weeks, and it was towards the end of the shoot. Everybody was very tired, and it was pretty draining, I seem to remember. It was very hot. One of the zombies fainted, really tall one, because he was near the lights. But I'll never forget the smell. I'll never forget how brilliant the production design was. There was a bit of tinsel in the money bottle. There was like full of coppers, and someone had put a little bit of tinsel in, like someone had done that on Christmas. That was fantastic. God love those extras for just standing outside and basically being silhouettes and moaning. Extras often moan, but these ones were doing it on purpose. Long time before everyone was going crazy for Freddy again. This was Edgar's idea, and he wanted to just have a scene of extraordinary violence set to an incredibly happy song. And he's a huge Queen fan, as am I, but Edgar's a particularly huge Queen fan. And Don't Stop Me Now is just this relentlessly positive, sort of propulsive ode to positivity. And we just thought it'd be hilariously funny to beat an old man to death to it. I remember being really tired on this day. I remember just coming down after lunch to shoot this scene and being physically in bits, and then having to get into zombie bashing mode. Oh, it's terrible being an actor, isn't it? This is quite an early sort of progenitor to Baby Driver, if you think about it, because it's Edgar basically using music that the characters are listening to score the film, and also we actually move kind of in time with the music. It's sort of like a dance, really. And we choreographed it in rehearsal. We sort of got into a room and we got all these moves together where if you watch, Lucy and Penelope are actually dancing to the song as they're watching us smashing Steve across the head. But you can see Baby Driver as the culmination of ideas that Edgar Wright had been having for many years.
Yes, I think the best part is when the friend girl and friend boy are just watching to the beat because they're just like, oh, yeah. It is a bop after all. No, that's, it not only says some of the same things we just said, but it's on point, right? I mean, it's hilarious too, but it's like well done as a scene.
Right,
which
right.
is good for a comedy.
Well, the sound effects, I noticed that the short staccato, quick film cuts, sound clips that in Edgar's movies, like the squeal of the tires, the whoosh, and you'll see somebody slam the door, whoosh, and then, the zoom in on people at the same time that these short clips are being taken.
Yeah.
It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Loved it.
I something I kind of had forgotten about, like as a subplot, was Yvonne, and like how she has her whole parallel group of like people that like has the exact like we'll call it the character class if it was D&D of like the exact class of
Bizarro character
Shaun
class,
does. Yeah, exactly.
And Martin
then
Freeman.
With Martin Freeman, yeah, and there's the moment where they all pass each other, and it's like you see like hello, yeah, okay.
And then the last one is Ed and the other guy or whatever,
and they're both like
on their phones,
dicking around with their phones. Exactly. No, what a great
another bit I realized this time that I hadn't thought about before is that the guy that fucks with him at work, right? Like the taller guy that you see pushing the cart later on.
Yeah,
he's on the phone with Ed trying to get weed from him.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You're right. Yeah, you're right.
And I don't think that, I mean, obviously Shaun doesn't know that, but when he's on the phone, he's like, I just talked to him. He didn't have anything or whatever. And then the call when Shaun's in the house or whatever is about how he doesn't have any weed. So it's like, oh shit, like small neighborhood,
all, like, interconnected. Yeah. It's pretty funny.
And their other roommate is Peter Sassafras, who is better known for playing the Tick on Amazon.
Yeah.
And also the voice of Darth Maul in Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And
before the character got good, you mean?
Yeah. I don't know. Honestly, the Phantom Menace
in the Clone Wars and actually, I guess it's Rebels. Like that, they turned that character in awesome.
Yeah, but he was still awesome in that. I mean, let's be fair. That was just that.
The Phantom Menace.
The Phantom Menace. The scene he was in. At the end,
where he gets killed almost immediately.
But that fight before
and you're like, that's it. Like this, you guys like 6 months of build up for how fucking awesome this guy's the new Darth Vader, and he gets fucking smoked by Ian McGregor immediately.
Okay, yes, but that fight.
You think that's awesome?
The whole fight sequence, though, was just beautiful.
Yeah, right. Do you mean the parts immediately before he gets completely killed?
Yeah,
right?
the 5 minutes where they're like slashing at each other.
Okay.
That was great. I love. okay, I'm sorry, I'm a sucker for sword fights. Like, you know, well choreographed fight scenes like that, I just absolutely love. And
it's
but
maybe
yeah,
the only good scene in that movie. But yeah,
Sure,
I was pissed off that like they built up that character as being like again like the new Darth Vader or something. Like what? That was it. But then. His whole arc is incredibly redeemed by both the Clone Wars cartoon series and Rebels. I can't believe I'm doing this to you. This is Andy stuff I'm doing to you, Andy. But it's like to the point that like when he shows up at the end of Solo, maybe one of the only good things about that movie. It's like, oh, that's very earned. If you,
a
like,
bad Star Wars movie with Darth
We
Maul.
have an after party for this conversation.
I know. Well, yeah, exactly. I don't know how. I don't know how I got put into the Andy role. I feel like Kristina's not on. I'm all like,
Hey guys, oh no, go ahead.
Well, I was going to add to the list of Yvonne's characters that, the motley crew that was there. I mean, there's Matt Lucas was the one that was parroting, Ed's. And then what I was also thinking was the 17-year-old co-worker, that's David Williams, and Matt and David were in Little Britain together. So it's
Little Britain, yes.
Yeah. So I was always wondering, like, how closely do these people actually know one another? Because if you're going to pull one in, just for a cameo, like, that's brilliant. That's total brilliance.
Yeah, well, I mean, it shows like a certain degree of self-awareness too. And but again, it's deeply hilarious because it's like they're going one way and they're going the other way. And they're like, oh, hello. Oh, okay.
And the other strange thing too about that whole thing, just because Edgar Wright then went to Canada after this to do not
TIFF.
Immediately.
I think it was TIFF, didn't he? Did he do TIFF?
Well, I was going to say Scott Pilgrim.
Pilgrim, yeah.
The guy from Little Britain. He happens to be a big Moxie Fruvis fan. Whenever they toured England, apparently he was sitting up in the front row, like being a big fanboy to Moxie Fruvis.
Hey guys,
Chris Murphy was like, your friend Andrew sure does bring up Moxie Fruvis a lot. He told this to me privately, but I was like, yeah, he likes that band a lot.
Hey guys, this is a clip about the word cunt. I've been trying to pull it out somehow in this together.
We were sitting in the writing room and we'd come up with a number of lines featuring the word cunt that we really liked, and we didn't really want to drop any of them. And so we wrote to the BBFC, which is the British Board of Film Classification, and very politely asked them, how many times can you say cunt in a film and it still be a 15 certificate? And they replied to us.
And they replied. Like, I actually just asked them if I could put this on the internet, because I think it's such an amazing email. This is written to the British Board of Film Censors. Dear Mr. Wright, thank you for your email, which has been passed on to me. The BBFC's guidelines at 15 state the strongest terms, for example, cunt, may be acceptable if justified by the context. Aggressive or repeated use of the strongest language, for example, cunt, is unlikely to be acceptable. As a general rule, it is highly unusual for the BBFC to permit more than 3 to 4 uses of very strong language, cunt, at 15 in a feature-length work. In terms of context, it is more likely that we would pass throwaway matter-of-fact or comic uses than uses that are aggressive, personally directed, or accompanied by complicating factors such as violence, threat, racism, or a power imbalance. For example, male to female uses are more of a problem than the other way around. In an extreme case, even an aggressive use can push the film to an 18. For example, if a man were hitting a woman and calling her a cunt. This is a real email, by the way. Or a man of one race hitting a person of a different race and using very strong language in combination with racist terms. Similarly, putting several uses together in a very short space of time may breach the repeated section of our guidelines and cause problems at 15. It is generally better if uses are spread out somewhat. As you say, we passed a single use of a strong word cunt in Shaun of the Dead because the use in question was throwaway, unthreatening, and essentially a term of endearment amongst friends. And then in brackets, it says, can I get any of you cunts a drink? Question mark. What was, we actually permitted 2 uses, one spoken and one written. First of all, we see the word cunt on the list of prohibited terms on the swear box in the police station. And then we hear, what a cunt,
when a man tells his friend about a man who sold drugs to kids. In the first case, the use was written, which reduces its impact, and of course lacked any aggression. In the second case, the use was not aggressive and was not personally directed, but instead uttered about a person who was not present at the time. So if Uncle Derek had been there, it could have been an 18. So the answer to your question is that it is possible to receive a 15 certificate with 3 or 4 uses of the word cunt, provided they are not aggressive or threatening or complicated by any kind of power imbalance. However, it's best not to concentrate them together into a short outburst, and we'd certainly caution against more than 3 or 4 uses. I hope that's helpful. Craig Lapper, Senior Examiner, British Board of Film Censors.
Amazing.
What an email.
What a cunt.
That would have been my tag too.
Yeah.
By the way, as you may notice, I have some red on me. And I specifically did this because I wanted a visual reminder of Shaun being in his work outfit. And when I first saw it, I saw the poster for Shaun of the Dead before I ever saw the film. And my presumption was, I was like, oh, it's going to be like Space, but like an Evil Dead thing. It's going to be like, Ash from Evil Dead, like Army of Darkness. It's going to be like that. But I like the idea of like somebody being in their work uniform and dealing with like all these kinds of things. But yeah, like the whole, like I had forgotten the running gag of you got some red on you. Like it starts with the pen, if I remember correctly, and then it goes on.
Interestingly, Edgar Wright was actually like the first movie that he saw on TV that he thought, like, I have this clip that I'll play in the after party, but the first movie he saw on TV that he thought to himself, like, I could do this. I could kind of make some kind of film and like have my, like friends and like some actors or whatever, like, was Evil Dead.
Evil Dead, right? Yeah. And that goes back to what we were talking about on Dead Alive and Night of the Living Dead about like, just being inspirational films for like, no, you can just do this, I guess. you could just like run around with, like in the case of Sam Raimi, completely physically abuse your friend to the point of comedy and make a movie.
I also feel like I don't think the American MPAA or whatever is that context based. Like I like how they send all the explanations of like if you're not using it aggressively towards somebody, you could say cunt, but you can't really call a woman a cunt. Like that's a completely different thing.
How British though to have like that level of granularity to it? Like how British?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hope this helps.
In Canada, it's not. In Canada, we can use it. We're sort of like a hybrid between the United States and England, New Zealand, Australia. We use that term, and we don't use it to the extent, I suppose, is what Americans seem to think it means. But we're not really that loose with it either, as the UK do. But
or the Australians.
But I mean, I've used it, but it has meant absolutely nothing. And in fact, on my stream, I have an alert that pops up just because of that, where somebody was being a total cunt, and so I did use it accordingly. But I mean,
was that your justification? Well, to be fair, they were being a total cunt. Oh, okay.
Well, they were a troll. And I said,
okay, all right, yeah.
Why don't you fuck off, you cunt? And then that became an alert. And so I was like, oh, good, we'll use that one all the time whenever someone's being a real nasty troll. But I mean, in Canada, it does not have that weight or that vulgarity that what Americans seem to identify using that term with, if that makes sense in a way.
Yeah,
that's interesting. I've heard that before.
Well, we had a whole conversation with Renee about it.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's Australia. Australia is hey, am I right?
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching The Wiggles, going like, "Wow, the use of the word cunt is amazing on this movie."
It's very artful. Yeah. But that's language for you, right? I mean, it's colloquialisms and slang and anything along those lines. But it's funny because I think this movie definitely transcends like any of that. Like there's enough in it to have it be like quote unquote authentic or whatever. But it doesn't. None of it seems very forced. It seems like a very lived-in world. And again, I think a lot of that's to the fact that like the vast majority of the cast had like worked together before And
in the case of the two main actors lived together at the time.
Yeah, exactly, and
Yeah.
just had a great familiarity with each other. That it's sort of easy to establish that, but you can kind of very easily sort of map out in your mind, like, okay, what had their life look like a couple months ago, or whatever. And I think that's always exciting, and I always like movies that have that level of depth, which is definitely an Edgar Wright sensibility.
It's very British. It's very British.
It is very British.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, which goes back to what Forrest had in the intro, right? About how, like, British series, they don't go on for like 25 seasons. It's like 3.
Unless you're Doctor Who.
Unless you're Doctor Who.
Or unless you're Monty Python's Flying Circus that went on for.
Doctor Who's the longest running science fiction show.
I mean, Monty Python was only on for 3 series.
Really? I thought they had. They had
all the movies afterwards.
You're thinking of the movies and the specials and things like that. But yeah, it is like a wild anomaly that Doctor Who has been as.
Yeah, it's like what was it? They got some weird soap operas like Doctors and.
I'm not going to read that.
The West Enders and that kind of stuff that's been going on, but like that's soap operas,
I think the most British moment in this entire movie, though, is and I have it as my name, and I wanted to bring it up no matter what. When Philip tells her, he's like, "It's okay, I ran it under the cold tap." And then he says the thing about, like, we got our jabs last summer. We went to the
Isle of Wight. Right, exactly. It's such a like old school British kind of
pot
reaction.
of tea. Remember his mom had to make the tea. Yeah.
The stiff upper lip sort of sensibility.
For sure. I mean,
And,
even
like,
the weapons that they use.
I didn't want to be a bother. Like, she keeps telling him, like, I didn't want to be a bother.
Yeah. I guess Helen Mirren was originally like in talks to be the mother character, which would have been
she shot it down and said the only way that she would be in it is if she could be Ed.
She wanted to be funnier, which would have been, by the way, like, amazing.
She's amazing. I mean,
I would have been way down for that, frankly. Sure. But I get it that, like, it didn't fit the vision.
Imagine if it's the exact same movie. Imagine it's the exact same movie, but it's Simon Pegg living with Helen Mirren. And,
I love it.
And then they're like,
stop right there. You've made the sale. Green lit.
Leave her alone.
Fucking playing video games and like
can I buy any of you cunts a drink?
Yes, please. Dame Helen Mirren. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I actually got my wife to go see the movie Red whenever that came out because Helen Mirren was in it.
Okay.
Who didn't blink when she was firing her machine guns.
Could have the Prime Minister. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, red on your shirt.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Could have brought back.
I actually thought when they said you have red on your shirt, I thought it was because I know that Simon Pegg is a huge Star Trek fan. I thought because of the term red on your shirt, I was thinking, oh my God, is he going to get bumped off? Because everybody knows in Star Trek, if you've got a red shirt on, you're pretty much circling the drain. So I was concerned for him. I really was.
Except for Next Generation, where they made that the command color. But yeah, not to be too nervous.
I think it was yellow that was the.
That was the disposable.
The disposable.
Ensign Adams. Oh yeah. Who beams down? Well, there's the captain, the first officer, the chief medical officer, and like Ensign Adams. Oh yeah, I wonder what's gonna happen. Yeah, okay.
So some dude we've never met before.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same kind of, but it's the same kind of thing, like the same kind of bit as at the beginning. They keep going up to like kids that are gonna become a zombie. Like he looks at the fucking kid with the soccer ball, and he's like, "You're dead." And and then he says he says about Pete, he's like, "Next time I see him, he's dead." So like they're kind of foreshadowing it, this like in this absolutely clueless,
and even like whenever they're talking about like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna start off with a Bloody Mary, and who's the first person they meet was Mary, who was a zombie.
Oh shit! I didn't even.
Yeah, like that whole like list is actually he outlines the plot of the film, like in the one of the first scenes of the movie.
Panic on the streets of London. I also appreciate the bit where the guys, it's the announcer on TV, and he's like, by removing the head or destroying the brain, and then
which is a callback to George Romero.
Yeah, but at the very end of the movie, he's like, I never thought I'd say something like that on TV. Removing the head or destroying the brain. Remarkable.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's very matter of fact. And was it Night of the Living Dead? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I mean, whatever it is, it's like very matter of fact then too. But it's obviously there's something hilarious about it being a posh British accent, right? Like
Yeah.
that's just deeply hilarious. Apparently to people in England as well, but definitely hilarious to us.
Well, there's like announcer voice. It's like a different, I mean, I don't think it's the same way that we.
It's like BBC voice. We call it.
Yeah.
It's justifiably or not.
It's different. It's different than the old-fashioned announcer voice, which is just the most condescending possible British accent that's talking about like India or something. They're like, in India, something's happened this week, and it's like the most patronizing possible. They've changed that a little bit.
They had a bit of insurrection, didn't they?
They think they can do self-government. Huh,
Spot of rebellion.
But...
Spot of rebellion after the morning.
There was another line I wanted to bring up while we're talking about things. When he says, hold on. When he says, as Bertrand Russell once said, the only thing that can redeem mankind is cooperation. And he's like, I think all of us will, could take that in now or whatever. And then Liz asks him, was that on a beer mat? And he goes, Guinness, extra cold.
Excellent. Yeah, and there's a lot of kind of self-aware, but not like nudge, nudge, wink, wink, self-aware sort of moments in this movie that I think make it kind of work on another level comedically.
Yeah.
Okay. Receive pronounce. Okay. I don't know. I don't know why I'm reading while I'm attempting to speak on the air, but it's something I'm doing. I mean, one of those things well. But like, I think there's a tendency towards overdoing that now, like with and again, and most people ascribe it to like the Marvel Cinematic Universe or whatever, but like it's just it's just part of the self-referential nature of our times that like there's just a lot of that, and like somebody like makes a comment and like somebody would immediately like undercut it and like whatever, but it was still like that manner of comedy in this style of movie was not as pronounced, so to speak, as it is now. And I think it's one of the things that makes it kind of special, is because now it's sort of like, oh god, all right, here we go. Like everybody's got to have something clever to say all the time, always, which never happens in real life or on this show usually, frankly. But sometimes, but it's something where it works well here because it's used judiciously. Like it's not super rat-a-tat. It's not like it's not like David Mamet or like Sorkin speed or whatever. And I think that's
well, I mean, which is what makes it interesting to talk about both Shaun of the Dead and Zombieland in the same, because those movies are literally a decade apart, right? Like 2014, I think, and 2004. So it's interesting that by the time you get to 2014, everything is self-referential. And it's like the nerdiest possible people like Jesse Eisenberg still have something to say. Like, you know what I mean? Like even in their nerdiness, they like come up with a line, and it's like it might be awkward, but like they still have come up with a line. And it's like, dude, like that's not how it works. Like,
it was only 5 years apart. It was only 5 years apart, but yeah, it felt like a decade.
Yeah, I mean, and like that's Bush to Obama too.
Yeah, Blair to whoever was after Blair.
To,
Gordon Brown.
Yeah,
was that it?
Yeah,
heck of a job, Brownie.
Prime Minister Gordon Gekko. Who can forget it? Might as well have been.
Yeah.
Am I right, folks? Anyway, yeah.
Both
that kills on the Commons floor. Thank you.
Both Adventureland and Zombieland were both 2009. That's crazy.
Yeah, I remember I was like, there's two movies that have got land in the title.
And they both have Jesse Eisenberg as the...
Adventureland's pretty good. It's good. I enjoyed it.
I like the slapstick in Shaun of the Dead too. Even in the most British form, they didn't have, except for the one gun, the Winchester. I mean, they had a shovel, they had kitchen knives. There's the grass hockey stick that the character Liz was holding. They had darts, and I mean, the slapstick was amazing too, because there's usually in comedy two places which will garner laughs: anything that gets struck in the head or in the bells. And Shaun gets the dart to the head before the dart,
which is amazing. That's like deep. I mean, I every time I see it, I'm like,
yeah, like the guy.
I flinch every time I see it because I've almost gotten hit with darts before, and
it's like sticking out.
Yeah.
What are you saying, Lisa?
So the guy that gets the arm, the one first shot, she misses, and then she gets the arm, and then
That's
that
right.
doesn't really get a lot of laughs, but it's always anything to do with the head will
Rule
get
of three.
yeah. So I thought, yeah, for sure, this is gonna garner a lot. And then of course, beat whacks to the head. That always gets
Well,
laughs too.
the rule about whacking somebody in the head usually is that like when they teach you how to script comedy is that you have to do it from enough of a distance that the person can't actually feel like they feel it themselves, which is interesting. Like they teach you to do it that way. Like you can't really show somebody getting hit in the head in graphic detail. I mean, now they do in a lot of movies. Like, I mean, we watched like Brain Dead, she destroys the fucking rat monkey in graphic detail. But the old style comedy rules, if you're gonna show somebody getting hurt like in that way, like it's got to be from far enough away that the person can't that they don't feel like it's happening to them. There's like a distance thing, but it's cool. It's funny, and when Shaun gets hit with the with the dart, like it's close up enough that I don't know, like my reaction to it is like thinking about like how much it would fucking hurt to get hit by a dart, but then other people's reaction to it is probably laughing because it's a funny bit. So it's interesting how that hits us with a certain perspective, I think.
Like
and then the removal of it, and there's blood spurting when they removes it, extra.
Well, and you bring up an important point that I'm glad you did that I forgot to mention is that one of the things that makes this notable is like it's England, so there isn't like a gun in every holster and every corner.
No.
And like that's what makes it great is they do have to improvise with their weapons. They have to like find like whatever's around. And like if you stop and think about like zombie movies, if you think about and again we're doing 28 Days Later with Jeremy on Tuesday, same deal, right? Like the military has guns, but like there aren't guns just around. Like what does Tallahassee say? God bless rednecks or whatever. And it's true, right? I mean, because it's like obviously a bunch of amosexuals in this country, so it's like guns are very plentiful.
And then like
they're also in Texas in that movie for whatever reason. Like he's hitchhiking through Texas. He makes a whole comment about Texarkana and stuff.
but generally in the U.S., guns are plentiful. I mean, in Wisconsin is an open carry state.
Yes, with the crazy castle doctrine law that Scott Walker put into effect.
Yes.
But you also have for example, One of the Dead, which is taking place in Cuba. There's no guns
you're getting
in that
like
movie.
A little taste every time you mention it on air, but okay.
There's no guns in that movie until the American shows up. Who's not really an American? It's just the one guy in Cuba that can speak a little English, which makes it even funnier.
Maybe CIA, who knows?
But no, the guy shows up with all these guns and stuff, so they're actually armed at the end whenever it's fun. But yeah, the one guy with the guns in the movie is the American.
Well, yeah, because you're not allowed to. I mean, in Cuba, you're not allowed to have guns.
But I think that's notable because if you think about like the zombie mythos, right? Like there's a lot of like, okay, you got to like shot to the head or a double tap if you're in Zombieland.
Shot to the head, and you're to blame. Anyway.
But it's like it implies the immediate availability of guns. Right. And that just is not the case in England. And that's like one of the reasons why like those Guy Ritchie movies, right? Like Snatch and all and like Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. Like it's like a conceit of it is like, this is an aberration that there are like guns on the street. Like, oh my God, there's guns on the street.
Well, I mean, if you look
like a civilized country.
If you look at Night of the Living Dead, right? There's the one gun. Like they have the one shot, and then they come up and they shoot him a bunch of times because it's like a vigilante unit that's been raised by a sheriff and by the National Guard to go in and try to like kill as many zombies as they can, but like until that point there's that one gun, like they're fighting over it at the end of the movie.
Well, and that makes it unique too, I think.
But then he made sure like George A. Romero made sure that it's characters that would have a gun in Dawn of the Dead, right? Because they're both in the National Guard in the beginning, the two friends, and then the other two, they might not have a gun within, in like the news station that they work on, but like they probably would have a gun, at least a flare gun or something, as part of the helicopter that they take. So and then Day of the Dead, obviously they're in a military base like establishment. So, he finds ways to actually shoehorn the amount of guns that he needs in each movie.
That makes sense.
I was answering the the comment section while you were talking. But yeah, I mean, it's like one of the appeals to going to the Winchester is that there's a gun there. And then there's all like, wow, it doesn't even work. Like it doesn't, I forget what the term is, but like,
well, they assume that the gun that being there means that the guy's in the North London Mafia, which is kind of
which is hilarious.
like the only way that the guy would have a gun is
right.
Hey, dogs,
I mean, clearly. Why else would he have a gun? Checkmate, liberal. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
But,
and dogs can't look up too. Can't forget
exactly.
that part.
That's the other thing. Yeah. But then of course, the Nick Frost character keeps insisting that it is, and then it turns out that he's right, that like it does work, and it ends up being key to the plot. Yeah. Anyway, this is, but I mean, one of the things I think that like is notable for Shaun of the Dead is that like the action is like pretty well paced. Like it doesn't really like lag at all. It's pretty like
The cadence
hotly.
is good.
Yeah,
The cadence is good.
and I feel like sometimes, especially with comedies, there's a tendency to like have too much of a refractory period or something along those lines. And I don't feel like that's the case here at all. I feel like this is a very very taut film. I think it's like barely over 90 minutes, right? I mean, it's certainly not like it's. I mean. Again, as I'm often fond of saying on this show, it's like there's so many movies now. It's like this is good. Wrap it up. It's enough. Like come on. You don't need.
That's why you're still watching the Batman.
Exactly. Still watching the Batman. Still watching Drive My Car. Yeah, absolutely. And that's a modern sensibility I just hate. As much as I just said how much I love Until the End of the World, which is it's like 4 hours. Like it's probably longer than that. I can't remember. But that's like an aberration.
27 years, I think.
Exactly. But and especially when one of the things that's so nice about this is like when something's so taut and well paced like that, it makes you want to watch it again rather than being like, cool, that was good, I'm never going to watch that again.
Yeah.
And I think this has incredibly repeat watchability. I know because I've seen it a bunch of times.
Yes.
Well, so Edgar Wright's DP 3060, I think, is the show that they interview directors like on their whole career or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about how his first movie that he made as like a college student or whatever was 53 minutes, but he somehow padded it up to 73 minutes, like by doing these really, really long title credit sequences, but he wanted it shown in theaters. So he like had to make a feature length film. So I guess that's 73 minutes. So he was talking about how this film,
Renee, we did actually cover Stalker, and I love Tarkovsky, and actually described Too Old to Die Young as Tarkovsky's Narcos, which I felt was pretty good. Thank you.
but
By the way, I did this earlier. The World's End, and this is the, I couldn't freaking remember. There's like 4 movies came out that have like similar titles around the same time. Anyway, whatever.
and there's the that show, that British show that came up with it has a similar.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
World's
so
End,
much.
was I took personally.
Yeah. Okay, well done.
But no, so like, but it's kind of fascinating that that his original thing is like, because I know how long it takes to film something, like because he just had friends that he was filming with, like he hadn't even filmed Space yet at this point, so he did like this first feature film that's just like his friends and they're all hanging out, and he found some like unpaid actors or whatever. He didn't even know Simon Pegg yet, and so he like padded this movie. He said he really doesn't like it, but he padded it up to 73 minutes after shooting like 55 minutes of footage. And then this, he said that he had 3 hours to cut down for Hot Fuzz. There's like, an extra like hour and a half of movie or something that you don't get to see with that. So it's kind of funny which movies I think end up being longer and which one, like, when you're starting out or something, like how much you actually have to shoot to do a feature film that doesn't get talked about a lot. I think this movie is the perfect length for what it is.
Are you talking about A Fistful of Fingers?
Yeah, I was trying to remember. I remember it was like a Sergio Leone reference, but yeah, I've not seen it, but I'm not gonna.
Yeah, no, I haven't either.
I don't watch things that suck.
Well,
apparently
you sure do.
Apparently it got good reviews at the time. It doesn't like suck, but like he just wasn't happy with. He envisioned it one way and it came out a different way. I'm sure it's just like
which is fine. I mean, like whatever. Like
it's probably just like a well done student film, probably.
Yeah, which is fine. There's
it's got a beautiful poster. I'll give it.
I mean, look, even Kubrick had like he disowned those first 2 movies that he did, but they're good. Anyway,
did any of you in this movie observe? Because I didn't realize it until my partner realized it, that and at the beginning of the flick, none of the zombies were really paying any attention to them when like Shaun was walking through. Like they really weren't doing that much. And it was only after Shaun basically woke up out of his zombie state that suddenly now the zombies are hyper aware of him and his family and his loved ones. Did any of you see that none of the zombies originally were paying attention to them?
And that's why they
just
like zombies and get away with it.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, in that first scene when he's just kind of walking through, none of them really do anything to him. I mean, but he's also kind of just, he's hungover and just kind of stumbling through the, through the city. So like, I guess it could have been like, he's so asleep that they mistake him for also being a zombie. I mean, it's kind of cool that it works that like when they're wandering through and they're just doing the ooh, thing. Like it's crazy that works.
Yeah, like when they're doing
the ideal zombie apocalypse would be if zombies didn't attack drunk people, like for whatever reason, like, you could just
because they thought they were zombies as well.
Yeah.
That's great. That's amazing. That's really good, actually. That's
There we go. Copyright that real quickly, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've said
that on a public platform now.
I know. Well, and we like between this and on Zombieland, I feel like we specced out like an entire freaking movie's worth of ideas. We're just giving away for free on this goddamn show. Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, I forgot what I had another thing that I was gonna. Oh, did you guys ever see that Key and Peele sketch where they're walking through the zombie apocalypse and they're all white zombies and they won't bite them because
Yeah. That's good.
That was clever.
Yeah.
The zombie fucking locks the car door.
Oh yeah. That's good. That's good. I mean, look, I think that it's hard to think of a movie that does zombies and comedy that's better than this for me. And I know I could say final thoughts and stuff, but I was thinking about it. And I do really like Zombieland. I think Zombieland's a great movie.
Yeah, and Dead Alive is a blast.
Dead Alive is fantastic. Return of the Living Dead is great, but like for me, this is like the nadir of the genre thus far, and maybe there's others that will yet occur. But,
yeah, One of the Dead's a lot of fun, but doesn't quite.
God damn it!
Valley of the Dead. Valley of the Dead has like one of my favorite masturbation jokes, and just
save it for the after party.
Yeah, we're actually doing an after party tonight.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
See, I got all this stuff built up in me, and
we knew.
My cup overfloweth.
You need a valve release.
Hildy, I'm so sorry, Hildy. I'm so sorry that's happening.
Oh, we turn into 12-year-olds on my stream all the time. Lord LOC is here, and usually you can hear me saying, Lord LOC, what in the world? Yeah, yeah, we turn into 12-year-olds all the time.
Can we I think we should probably mention that like in this film that like this is one of we mentioned the Cornetto trilogy, but like this is like one of the great Nick Frost and Simon Pegg team up movies, right? I mean, this is like now granted, if you know their history, like it shouldn't be the first one, but I think this is for my money probably the best one. Although some days I might say Hot Fuzz, but I'm
a big Hot Fuzz fan. Not as big a fan of The World's End. I don't dislike it or anything, but yeah,
it's good.
Yeah, it's just this one just kind of hits all the sweet spots.
Yeah,
and it doesn't have that kind of toxic anger that Spaced had.
Spaced, I feel like there
were moments where it's just like, ooh, that like the Jar Jar Binks rant. I'm sorry, like that just. After
after the actor, there's a needling sort of meanness to it that was very endemic of the times. It also, like, I think is like a struggling artist's rage.
And I think this doesn't have that. It has like everything that made Spaced great. but you know, wasn't as like vindictively cruel at times.
Yeah. Yeah, no, well, I mean, and like, I wonder if that's just something that just comes from time, you know, like kind of aging into your sense of humor. Because I mean, this is like fully formed, like Edgar Wright. I mean, this is like, I mean, I think that his sensibilities are like just right down the line, perfect.
Yeah,
on this one.
And he's open about the fact that he doesn't want to do a third season of Space or whatever, like even though it's been discussed, because it's like he made it at a certain, like he wrote it at
time of his life.
Yeah. No, and when it came to an end, it came to a very natural endpoint.
Yeah, exactly. It's enough, really. I mean, like, you know, it doesn't need to go on for 1,000.
He doesn't want to exacerbate things, right?
No, it's just like one of the actors from this movie was in had a show called Black Books, which is phenomenal too. And again, just the right length, ends at the right time. And if you ever get a chance, I highly recommend watching Black Books.
Turn this off and watch Black Books.
Guess what? Sean Penn's college thesis was called or titled a Marxist overview of popular 1970s cinema and hegemonic discourses. Is apparently his college thesis that he got on.
Comrade Pegg. You know, it's. I think this is a hilariously apolitical movie, like in that way, but it is somehow like very much of its time too. Like it's very much like of that sort of mid 2000s feel to it.
I don't know if he'd agree, but yeah.
I mean,
I saw a clip of Simon Pegg talking about how you know, he feels like this movie is about like one man standing up against hegemony and like, you know, the state of being that we're all in. He had like some deeper analysis.
Right. Yeah, okay, sure.
Bring back his undergraduate thesis, a Marxist overview of popular, you know,
I mean,
2000s.
Sure. Yeah.
I think there is a little bit of like societal critique to this, like of
course. Yeah, I mean, like look at the ending. Like it's like an indictment of like, you know, the Jerry Springer style shows and like, you know,
but a very
shows that
way,
are predatory.
You know, of that.
Yeah, like it's. I mean, like it's obviously social critiques are there. I don't mean to say that like it lacks social critique. It's just it is
like the Great British Zombie Bake Off.
Fantastic. But yeah, I mean, like I'm not trying to short sell it either. It's just that like I'm just saying like it's also a deeply entertaining movie, and I think of it, you know, again 2004, 2006. When did this come out?
2004.
A lot of very heavy-handed stuff was coming out around then, and one of the reasons why is because culturally, and we talked about this at length and ad nauseum during Vice, that like in mainstream media there just weren't alternative ideas able to be presented.
Yeah, I mean, like I remember when just feeling gaslit by like media and just I mean, like you know, Keith Olbermann was not really like anything special now, but like in like 2004 or 2006, you know, whatever. Like 2005, it was like this breath of fresh air where we're like, all of a sudden it's like, wait, I'm not the only person feeling like this. I feel seen, you know.
Secret behind Howard Dean's candidacy.
Yeah.
Because like what was the big thing that he came to people's attention? Because he gave a speech where it just was like, you know, I'm sick of being told what to do by fundamental speeches. I'm sick of being like just like outline a bunch of things he was pissed off about. And everyone's like, yeah, we're pissed off about that too. And he's like, great. I have no idea what I'm doing.
And then he was like, and we're going to go to Iowa.
I knew
New
it was
Hampshire.
coming.
And then they were like, okay, you're still mad about all the stuff. And you're no,
it's
but I like the idea
impossible to talk about that dude without that.
I know. But I like the idea of him coming into the campaign with full energy like that. Everyone's
Yeah.
like, hell yeah. And then him burning
And then
out.
that being the thing that sinks the campaign. After he mentions, and
it's
since
a lot more complicated than that. But like the thing is I can't find that information anymore because there's like a great expose about how there was like these attack ads. And
but I will tell you that you can find that on your own on the internet. Turn this off, go find that. But like as I've mentioned before, since you brought that up, I bring this up every time. He mentioned breaking up on national news. Mentioned breaking up the media monopolies, and then 3 days later that happened. So draw your own conclusions. Because first of all, by the way, amazing idea, great. I'm here for it. But maybe don't mention that on like air. right? Like maybe because like remember how much media shapes, and I'm sure we'll get into this next month, which is elections. How much media shapes politics, and like they choose who isn't as acceptable or electable, if you will, now. But like mentioning breaking up media monopolies on like national, like commercial television, and then suddenly like that happened. Okay.
Well, I mean, both Bernie and Warren kind of did the same thing.
No, but the thing is, he specifically.
Yeah.
They didn't though. They didn't. They talked around it. They talked about it in a smart way. He was like, "Oh yeah, we should." I forget the exact. He was like, "Yeah, we're going to look at a break into these media monopolies too." And it's like, "What?" Like, I mean, cool, but like, and then next thing you know, like, what's playing 24/7, 365 is that isolated audio of, and like it was incredibly effective. And I can't wait to talk about that when we do Wag the Dog with whoever the hell's on that episode. I think JG Michael, right? Because that's one of the great Wag the Dog moments, which is next month for election month. We are still in Zombie Night Extravaganza, and we're still talking about Shaun of the Dead. Are we doing Letterboxd one-liners now, or do we have something else?
I have them.
Let's do it. Hilda, are you ready? Are you ready for this, for the classic bit, the classic Letterboxd one-liner bit?
No, because
it's okay.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, are you ready now?
Yeah, sure. I don't know what. See, I for some reason I don't know this part of the show because I always have to leave. So now I'm going.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, well, let me. I'll explain to the audience as well as to you. I will movie night explain you this that Letterboxd, of course, is a social media site for film lovers. They get to talk with and to each other about the movies they love, maybe the movies they didn't love, movies they're weirdly thirsty for, all of those things. No Siskel's, no Eberts, open source democracy, talking about Howard Dean. From the ground up, everybody gets to have their say, and that is best expressed, for the purpose of this bit anyway, in the classic working your tight five in front of Andy World's brick wall comedy one-liner format. So what we do is we collect all the best one-liners on Letterboxd, bring them up, present them on the show, react to them, talk about them, hopefully laugh at them, etc., etc. These are the Letterboxd one-liners for Shaun of the Dead. The most unrealistic part about this wasn't the zombie apocalypse, but the idea that the British government would react so quickly to a crisis.
True.
Yo, the parties
Too
at
soon.
fucking 10 Downing Street though that were happening probably during this whole debacle. I bet that they were lit.
Yeah. I mean, and this is, like, again, too real too soon, but yeah.
Bojo zombie party, he's like, bring everybody, come on over to the 10 Downing Street, and we'll get wrecked. We'll get wrecked.
All right. Next up, 28 pints later.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I feel you on that one. 28 days later is actually our next episode, I think, right?
Yeah,
Jeremy. Okay, cool.
And I also like that I picked the graphic, like before even seeing them. I picked the graphic where they are 28 pints later.
White. Crazy how they didn't need to use any zombie makeup for this movie because British people just look like that. Shots fired. Shout outs to our British audience.
I ran it under a cold tap. They go to the Isle of Wight for vacation. They're literally in the middle of the fucking, the right off fucking Britain, and like, the channel between Britain and France. Like, they're not exactly going to vacation somewhere where they're gonna get a nice tan. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, you never been to Brighton?
I've been to Brighton. It's lovely. It is. It's
quite all right.
lovely.
It's quite all right, Barbara. I ran it under a cold tap. Speaking of which,
I'm quite all right,
and just shout outs for the fact that they were able to switch to that beautiful homage to the classic Tales from the Dark Side. Yeah. Or yeah, Tales from the Dark Side. Yeah,
Tales from the Crypt.
Tales from the Crypt comic book.
Game World. That's apparently if you have the patron tier of Letterboxd. You can
Yes.
choose your own custom art, which
But I just wanted to shout that out because I don't know who did that, and I'm now very curious.
there you go. Maybe Kevin Farrell will tell you that or not. I don't know.
We're on the next one.
I forgot that British people exist until I saw this again.
You also forgot that this slide existed until you saw it again.
You just got the name of Tales from the Crypt wrong. You're really going to poke fun at me right now?
Yes. I am.
Also, your bit's coming up next, bud. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah. I can't wait. It's going to be great.
Oh, you know it's always a shit show.
Not the original Blue Monday final.
Yes. I cry every single time.
Oh, no, I love Blue Monday. Oh.
I love that. I didn't watch it, but like, you know, because there's a lot of clips where they're talking about something. There was one clip where they were like, we were so excited that we got to destroy an original Blue Monday final.
That's amazing. We're coming to get you, Barbara.
I never made that connection until seeing this. Like, I never.
I saw that in the theater, and I was like, amazing.
Well, I saw this before I saw Night of the Living Dead, so I think that's why.
Yeah. Well, you're like 10, so I get it.
I'm sad that they didn't name anybody Dwayne.
Dwayne. Oh, yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
I don't think they have any of those in England.
No,
Dwayne, come in here. I ran it under the cold tap, Dwayne.
The Brits having game shows where the zombies take part in is too accurate. We would 100% do that. Also, dogs can't look up. That's my letterbox bud, Louise. She's awesome.
They definitely can look up, but you know, whatever.
No, Audrey cannot look up.
She looks up all the time.
She looks side to side. She does not look up.
She looks up. She don't. I've seen her go like. She goes like this.
What? Oh, what? You think she's a nope or something?
She's in Don't Look Up. She's actually anyway, whatever. Shaun having self-esteem issues and self-doubt instead of fighting zombies in the middle of a zombie attack is peak relatability.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Sure.
Agreed, Lauren. Also, thank you, library as a tag is good with number U. Maybe we should all go to the Winchester, have a nice cold pint, and wait for this pandemic to blow over.
Yeah, check that date.
Yeah, it's solid stuff. And those are the Letterboxd one-liners for Shaun of the Dead. Please follow the show, which is your host, Forrest Miller, there. Movie Night Extravaganza. I, of course, am Conan Neutron. I've got some red on me, and I'm all over Letterboxd. Follow me for all that business. J. Andrew World, Funboy 3 down there is watching all the weirdest crap, so you don't have to. Or maybe so you can. Who am I to judge?
Yeah, no, I occasionally find something good.
Hildy, are you not to? It's not a peer pressure thing, but are you on a Letterboxd or anything along those lines? I just want to make sure to get the plug in if you are. But
what do I need to do?
No, you don't need to do anything. I'm just asking if you're on it. I don't want to omit you, but if the answer is no, that's okay. People always think I'm like selling them or something. It's like, no, I just want to make sure you get included in the bid if you have a Letterboxd stamp. It's all right.
I don't have a letterbox. No.
Okay,
It's okay.
That's fair.
It's totally all right. Funboy 3, take us away with plugs, please. Thank you.
All right. You're watching us right now on YouTube, so please do the YouTube things. Like, comment, subscribe. And
What if they're listening? What if they're not, though? What if they're listening on the podcast?
that's what I'm going to get to next. If you're patient.
Why are you assuming things, Andy?
I think that's ableist. I think you're assuming that everyone can actually see us, and you know.
What about our blind YouTube subscribers?
Blind YouTube subscribers is actually probably how we got at least half of them. They're like, oh, I'll follow this channel.
Whatever, I'll subscribe to that. Sure. I'm getting pestered to do this. I told you, man. You open yourself up for this, by the way. Just to be explicitly clear. Like you almost asked for this. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I don't want to hear any complaints that it's taking too long either. So hit that bell, and of course, watch the video to the end because that'll help other YouTubers, YouTube watchers, find our show.
Or YouTube listeners. Again, let's not be ableist. That's a good bit. I'm sorry. That's a great bit.
Yes. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter. Even though I have the word Twitter really large in front of me, I'm not saying it correctly. Follow us on Twitter. You can find out when episodes are coming up, and previews of shorts. Plus, you also get if you want to join our community. We have a little community. It's a lot of fun. I think
uncharacteristically, some of the last posts are mine. Like it's usually like a stream of whatever's on Andy's mind, but
or like whatever I watched, and I'll just make a comment, an extra comment above and beyond what I already reviewed about it on Letterboxd.
Yeah, hasn't been a poll in a while. I don't know.
I've been feeling a little under the weather, so
yeah, I hear that, man. This cold has been kicking my ass. Anyway.
Yeah.
Welcome to Plague Night Extravaganza. Thank you.
We've all been infected. Hey, have you guys also gotten a bite?
This weird homeless dude bit me the other day. I've been feeling kind of weird ever since.
And I was like, usually I pay for this, but
exactly.
I don't know. Typically, I get invited on this. Never mind. We have a Patreon. Sign up with a Patreon if you can. That helps us out. Mostly Forrest out.
By us, we mean him.
We need patrons so I can start paying everybody. Like,
it's true. It's true. He's going to be
broke. Give it to him.
Just
it's fine.
Yeah.
I am the homeless guy that's biting people.
Although I just had the brakes redone on the van today, and I was like, oh my god, Jesus Christ.
These are the brakes.
Break them up. Indeed.
Well, so please join our Patreon. So Forrest can have money and Conan can fix his brakes.
Yes. Or you can join my Patreon and you can just help me fix my brakes. Thank you.
Yeah, which is for Protonic Reversal. Which let's see here. There was no Protonic Reversal this past week.
We played the High Noon Saloon in Madison last night. So there was
so do you have a show coming up next week?
Who's coming up? I think it's John Forbes from Tijuana Hercules and Mount Shasta, or Nick Sakes of Bright Forms and Dazzling Killmen. One of the two, I can't remember. But anyway, there is a show next week. Sorry, I've been sick.
We'll fill people in on Tuesday.
I'll have the information on Tuesday. But back on regular Protonics for a bit before making up those tour dates in November.
Yeah. And you got some music that people can grab because we have it is not Bandcamp Friday, is it?
I know that's first Fridays.
Okay, yeah.
This is like the third Friday, maybe.
Is that right? That sounds right. Yeah, I think we missed Bandcamp Friday. We weren't streaming on Bandcamp.
Is it Friday? Yeah, it is Friday. Yeah. No, I don't think we did. Did we? I don't know.
We weren't streaming on Bandcamp Friday.
Nobody cares, including me.
Yeah, but that's okay. But you can still go to Bandcamp and get Action Chief Just the Solos, or Conan Neutron and Secret Friends album, Dangerous Nomenclature.
Yeah,
and you can get it on vinyl.
But I have the CD in my hands. I'm going to show that. We're actually going to finally put up T-shirts too for the ones we made. Now that's what I call Dudes Yelling, and the ones that Rick Froberg designed. Finally, people have been asking for a while. Not on this show, but in other places. So I'm going to finally put those up, especially when I saw the bill for the breaks. I'm like, whoa, all right, these T-shirts are going up now.
Yeah. And you have any shows coming up?
I don't literally played last night in Madison. So the only ones coming up are right now, right after Thanksgiving, we're playing Los Angeles, Joshua Tree, and then the makeup show with McCluskey in Oakland. And then there's a show in Chicago, like at the very end of the year, but that's it.
So yes,
the answer is yes for them. But
if you're on the West Coast or Chicago, get prepared, get your body ready for Conan Neutron. Come to town.
Otherwise, you missed out. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say. It's probably gonna be 2023.
And
I mean, as evidenced by the fact I came away with this goddamn cold I've had for like 2 goddamn weeks. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So Hildy, you have a Twitch show.
I do. I stream on Twitch, and I'm also on Twitter, and I'm also on YouTube. I stream Canadian politics, horror games, and I like to talk about food stuff on Fridays during Fun Friday. And I go by the name of Hilda_Beast. And you can find me on those socials. And I just want to say, shout out to Cosmopolitics, Kristina. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Truly, I will always be forever grateful. And to you 3 gentlemen, thank you very, very much. I am so appreciative that you included me and reached out to me. So cheers.
Yeah, this was fun. And do you have any final thoughts? Anything we didn't get to in this episode, or Yeah.
Oh, I have heaps and heaps of notes here. That
Lay it on us. Andy,
we're also
apparently
doing
finished the bugs.
we're also doing an after party after this. If you wanted to come on for that,
Yeah.
It's just if you wanted to talk about.
It's like
the
this,
stuff
but
on the
less on
notes.
topic.
Yeah, it's even less on topic.
Sure. I would love to.
That's not a peer pressure thing too. Like that's like it does feel like because you're like, oh, you want to come? Are you coming to the after party? Huh? And like, maybe.
Yeah. You're on Instagram, right? No.
I got peer pressure.
we only do as many episodes as we do, so we can just peer pressure as many people as we can to join various social media sites.
Right. We see literally no benefit from whatsoever. To be explicitly clear.
We're just hoping to eventually get zucked when we get enough people to join. but yeah, like usually the final thought is
I get paid in decorative raccoons. Actually, it's wild. Anyway.
just like something we didn't get to, or a summary either way.
Well, I mentioned earlier that I liked it that it didn't end up in a neat little bow with respect to Ed and Shaun, both not being zombies or both being zombies. I like that duopoly, but I also liked it that the virus was not explained or the illness was not explained. I also liked the fact that Liz actually hung out more, I guess, sitting there in the living room of that house instead of living in her penthouse tower up at the top there. Like
her ivory tower.
Yeah, she came down to reality and was hanging out in the apartment or the house there. I also like
her roommate, at least the guy roommate's a little bitch.
I liked that oh golly, Lucy Davis, the lady that plays Diane, she was giving them the crash course on how to be a zombie. She was the actress giving them the, with the vague look or whatever. Meanwhile, they have been zombies their entire lives, going to work, doing the grind, doing the day-to-day stuff. They've been living their whole lives as a zombie. And suddenly when they're supposed to be a zombie, they were terrible at it. I found that hilarious. What else here?
It's also an unorthodox use of skills, right? Like you wouldn't think of like, theater teacher, like, actress kind of coming in handy. I mean, maybe actress coming in handy, but like you wouldn't necessarily think that like, actually teaching them how to do that would come in handy. Like I kind of liked that part of it too.
Right. And I mean, and just the last thing was I love that they revisited some of the characters that were there originally, like the person behind Shaun at the till or the lady at the grocery store, the guy with the boots, Shaun's 17-year-old co-worker, and here he is pushing the carts at the very end. I loved all of that. It's a great movie.
Now I have questions about zombies unionizing. Like,
I'm going to recommend Terry Pratchett for you then. Check out Reaper Man, where the zombies do form a union under and want to be called not zombies, but living impaired.
Yeah.
All right.
PC culture is getting out of control.
Yeah, no, you love Terry Pratchett. Read him.
I mean, I think I've read at least something. I can't remember off the top of my head, but like I don't read a lot of fiction. But Conan.
Yeah. Well, not that, but what Hildy was saying, like I think that she's onto something. I would just also add this is a very smart movie. This is a very, very smart movie, very funny movie. And it's actually a paragon of the genre for me because of both of those things. But there's a deep love of the genre without being overtly referential to it, meaning that like, hey, did you check out the thing with the stuff? As for instance, I literally just watched X, the Ty West movie, and it's like, I don't know, maybe if I'd watched it knowing nothing about it, okay, fine. But I just was like, oh, it's exactly the thing I thought it was going to be, which is fine. It's like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but they're making a porno. Okay, well, cool. But like it's so reverential and referential that like I don't know. I only thought it was okay. I think this movie is fantastic because it actually forges its own trail while also being incredibly loving towards the genre itself, but kind of adds something new to it. And I think that's makes it one of Edgar Wright's most fun movies, which is saying a lot because there's a lot of really great ones, and the entire cast is fantastic. not just the principals, but as mentioned, like Lucy Davis is fantastic. The whole cast is just this is great. This is a great film. This is, and again, 90 minutes and change. People, it doesn't have to be like 3 hours long. Doesn't need to be that long. Cut it out. Seriously, it's enough. This is sometimes we cover movies here and it's like, okay, this is going to be a good discussion. Let's strap in. This one I was like, yes, awesome. I get to watch Shaun of the Dead again. And there's something to be said for a movie that's that much fun.
Yeah, and George A. Romero actually really liked this movie to the point where, and I'll play the clip. There's a documentary or like a short documentary that they made of going to the set of The Land of the Dead. But like, so I'll play 5 minutes from that, starting the after party. But I guess he brought all of his crew with him to see Shaun of the Dead, and they all watched it together.
That's awesome. Because it's like, because if you stop and think about it, like they were a rock band, like Night of the Living Dead would be like the Led Zeppelin or something of a genre,
I could just see
right?
Romero being like Leonardo DiCaprio from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like pointing at the screen about the bar.
Totally, yeah, big Leo meme energy, sure.
Pointing at it, being like, "They're going to get Barbara."
Actually, I guess Night of the Living Dead would probably be more like Sex Pistols or Ramones, but whatever. I'll work on that analogy. I'll have it worked out for the after party.
All right, Andy, let's hear those final thoughts.
This movie is always a lot of fun. It's truly, it's British people doing stuff. I have a
it is indeed British people doing stuff, Andrew.
We're out here doing stuff, man.
I have a very low bar with this kind of thing, so like
apparently
have a British accent on it. I am there, which is why I've watched stuff like Vicar of Dibley and Black Books. You never seen Vicar of Dibley?
Those sound like I acknowledge that those are words. No, I've not seen Vicar Dibley. What is that?
Yeah, it is.
I don't care.
At least one of those are not a word. At least
funny.
one. I've never heard the word Dibley
Vicar
before.
Dibley's like a fake town.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it sounds like a Douglas Adams character to me. So
Oi, let's go down to the Nibbly Dibbly.
Yeah, no, it's actually really clever, Vicar of Dibley. But
okay. All right, I believe
like I said, you got British people involved with it. Chances are I'm going to check it out. Smack the Pony, whatever, blah blah blah. It's just yada yada, a bunch of shows. But yeah, so it's exciting whenever not only is it British people doing something, but they're doing something in a really awesome thing, and that doesn't always happen. I mean, I watched all of Primeval, and
why does this sound like what I would imagine like a transcript for like a Trump interview sounds like? It's British people doing something, and it's
they have the greatest things. They know the greatest things.
It's not always successful what they do.
Not always the best.
What they're doing is really great. And you know what? We stand with them.
Vicar Dibley. They call him Vicar Dibley.
I'm just waiting for Peter Sassafras to like.
He's not one of our people. He's not one of our people.
Vicar. Who names their son Vicar? Am I right, folks? Yeah.
Yeah. The funny thing is, the vicar's a woman.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyways, but yeah, no, it's so yes, I will watch British people do lots of stuff.
Apparently
fight dinosaurs, whatever. And it's nice whenever it's actually something good. Because oftentimes it's not. I mean, I have a long list of things that I've seen that is terrible, and I'm not going to bother listing it here. So this was quite enjoyable to revisit this film because it's always a good excuse to watch this movie. To see something that's not terrible with British
there you
people.
go, England. You did one thing right.
What are you guys, a bunch of English haters? Like, what is going on?
Don't look like this is his bit. I don't know.
Did you see what we said about the Queen before she died?
the night before she died. But yeah.
I mean, although to be fair, we did fight a war of independence for a reason. Am I right?
Yeah. No. Every time someone calls me a British hater, I say I feel like we've earned the right to do that. But I of course called our after party tonight the Winchester, so we could go to the Winchester. So I'm excited for that. We should be on that in about 10-15 minutes. My last comment for tonight, or for this stream: who died and made you fucking king of the zombies?